I've always believed you can tell a lot about a person by the friends they keep. That belief became complicated when my son George was growing up. George had a way of attracting children who hovered just outside the social circle. Not bullies, not troublemakers, just kids who felt a little off. The ones teachers watched a second longer than the rest. The ones who laughed half a beat too late. I used to tell myself it meant he was kind. But one story still sits in my chest like a splinter. George was in 4th grade when it happened. We had just moved because of my husband's job reassignment, uprooting our lives and planting us in a quiet suburban neighborhood with manicured lawns and cheerful school banners. George adjusted quickly. He always did. He was outgoing, friendly, the kind of kid who could walk into a room and leave with 3 new friends. So when I met the other parents at his school for the first time, I felt relieved. They were polite, well-spoken, attentive. Nothing felt wrong. Everything felt safe. That illusion cracked a few months later when I got a call from the school in the middle of the day. They asked if one of George's parents could come in to discuss an incident involving him and another student. My husband was working, so it fell to me. As I drove to the school, my emotions tangled themselves into knots. I was angry, of course, angry that my son might have been involved in a fight. But more than that, I was confused. George wasn't aggressive. He hated confrontation. If someone raised their voice, he'd shrink back like a startled animal. When I picked him up from class and walked him toward the principal's office, he wouldn't answer my questions. Not one. No explanations, no excuses, no nervous rambling. That silence unsettled me far more than a bad report ever could. The principal asked George to wait outside. I sat across from his desk while he asked the standard questions. Was George respectful at home? Did he follow rules? Did he ever act out? I answered honestly. George was a good kid. Then the principal explained the incident. Apparently, after recess, George and another boy named Sebastian were walking up the stairs together. Without warning, George pulled an eraser from his pocket and struck Sebastian on the head. Sebastian fell, screamed, and teachers rushed in. No witnesses, just the 2 boys. Both confirmed the story. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. Sebastian wasn't some random kid. George talked about him constantly. They were friends. But the principal assured me George wasn't in serious trouble. Kids fought sometimes. He just wanted to keep me informed. George didn't speak again until bedtime. That was when he finally told me what really happened. Sebastian had suggested they play make-believe. Street Fighter, specifically. He told George to use the eraser as a special move. When George tapped him with it, Sebastian threw himself to the ground and started screaming. Then, in a whisper meant only for George, he threatened him. Told him he'd hurt him badly if George didn't go along with the story. My blood boiled. Instead of going back to the school, I decided to handle it myself. I found Sebastian's mother's number in the directory and called her that evening. Her name was Maggie. She sounded kind, warm, almost relieved to hear from me. She said Sebastian had already told her everything and had been punished. That surprised me, but it also reassured me. She admitted Sebastian had behavioral issues, that sometimes he acted like someone else entirely. She suggested a sleepover, said it might help them bond properly. Looking back, I don't know how I missed the warning signs. Or maybe I saw them and chose to ignore them because it was easier. That weekend, I dropped George off at her house. Maggie invited me in. We shared wine while the boys played in the basement. She seemed normal, genuine, the kind of person you'd trust without thinking twice. When I asked about Sebastian's behavior more directly, her tone shifted. She said doctors thought he'd outgrow it, that he was doing better, that having friends was good for him. She promised my son would be safe. That night, George came home smiling. The next morning, he cried. He told me he woke up in the middle of the night, heard whispering coming from the basement bathroom, a flickering light, candlelight, not electric. Sebastian was talking to the mirror. But he wasn't calling himself Sebastian. He was calling himself Mr. Jim. George said Sebastian spoke like he was someone else entirely. Then the candle went out. The room went dark. Later, Sebastian stood over him, whispering in a language George didn't understand. By morning, Sebastian was normal again. When I confronted Maggie, she broke down. Admitted they'd moved before. Admitted doctors suspected something serious. She begged me not to tell the school. I agreed. Cowardly, maybe. But I did. It didn't matter. That Monday, Sebastian attacked another student. He was expelled. Maggie disappeared. Phone disconnected. House empty. Gone without a trace. George moved on. I didn't. Because this wasn't the first time I'd seen someone act like two people wearing the same skin. I grew up in a deeply religious household, Southern Baptist. We didn't believe in ghosts, but demons were very real. Anything unexplained had a biblical explanation. My mother, though, drifted away from faith. She struggled. Addiction, mental illness, things we didn't have names for back then. One night I dreamed she burst into my room and attacked me. I woke up screaming. Then the door opened, and she did exactly what I'd dreamed. Same words, same movements, same fury. She didn't remember it the next day. Weeks later, I found her in the yard holding a massive snake, smiling. She'd been terrified of snakes her entire life. She didn't remember that either. Then there was the church lock-in, the knocking, the impossible movement around the building, my mother standing barefoot in the cold, eyes locked on me, driving me home without a word. No memory of it the next morning. No one ever spoke of it again. Years later, my son started sleepwalking, standing in the hallway, eyes open, unseeing. Then the tapping, foreheads pressing against the wall in the exact same spot, years apart, same movements, same urgency. When we renovated the house, we found the mirror, sealed behind wallpaper, exactly where my sons had been trying to walk. I threw it out immediately, but sometimes, late at night, I wake up and swear I hear tapping, slow, measured, like someone testing the boundary between here and somewhere else. And I don't know what scares me more, the idea that there's something supernatural at work, or the possibility that it's all just the human mind doing things we were never meant to understand. Either way, some doors aren't meant to be opened, and some mirrors are covered for a reason.